For any folks who don't know me, I'm Wayne Senville, the volunteer coordinator of the Ohavi Zedek Lunch and Learn series. Appreciate everyone being here today. First of all, I want to just thank the lunch team for, again, providing a really delicious lunch for us. So appreciate the work that they've all done. And I should say Megan Kennedy was the principal cook for today. I also want to thank Debbie and Harvey Klein for supporting today's Lunch and Learn series as a sponsor. If anyone is interested in sponsoring one of the future Lunch and Learns, just come up to me afterwards and I can tell you what's involved in that, or you can speak to Evan at the Ohavi Zedek office. They are monthly Lunch and Learns, and they will run through April. And also, there are brochures on the table, both of Lunch and Learn and the Me2 Orchestra. If you don't find enough at your table, I see some extras on the front table. So let me turn now to today's speaker. Phoenix Crockett, who's standing next to me, before finishing his graduate work in education at the University of Vermont, studied music and played with a nonprofit orchestra that did mental health advocacy work called, as you might guess, Me2. In 2021, he took over as managing director of Me2 Burlington. Phoenix is also the founder of the Crockett Academy for Early Liberal Arts. As Phoenix told me, the Academy is a small private care and school for ages 6 weeks to 6 years, and he added that for himself and for his... Is that working now? Okay, sorry I wasn't close enough. He and his wife have set up this academy, which he can talk about, or if not during his presentation, during Q&A afterwards. And they view this as their life's venture. So it's an interesting combination of music and education interests. So I want to welcome Phoenix to speak to us today.
Thanks, everyone. Let me adjust this to see that I want it to be where you can hear me and where it's not in front of my camera friend here. Da-da-da. How's that?
Very good.
Good? Awesome. Thank you, guys. I'm Phoenix Crockett. This is the Me2 Orchestra. I really appreciate you guys all being here today. I'd love to go around and be in the community and talk about our mission and what it is that we do. I think the thing that we'll start with will be introductions. I very much appreciate Wayne's introduction, and I'll repeat some of that. I am the managing director of Me2 Burlington. There are 3 such orchestras. It was started by Caroline Whiddon and Ronald Braunstein just about 15 years ago, and we've been playing in town and all over New England ever since. To continue with a little bit of introductions, we also have the man waving the stick here. It's Michael Colburn. Michael Colburn is from St. Albans. Before he was with us, he spent 26 years as the conductor of the President's Own, the White House Band and Orchestra. So we're very lucky to have him. You'll see more of his work later on in this show. Before I talk about all of the specifics and exactly what it is we do and why and how we got here, let's just hear it for a second. I am going to play a video from YouTube, which means we will be annoyed briefly by an ad, but I promise it will be worth it.
Are you guys here for the halftime show?
Oh, no. We're here to help people customize and save at Liberty Mutual.
So that's why the emu is here?
Yes. And the emu has a name.
Thank you, Liberty Mutual. They did not sponsor this meeting today. Thank you. That's Ronald Braunstein there conducting, who is also the founder of this group, a story that I will tell briefly. Here we go. Technology. Great. Let's talk about us. Me2 Orchestra is a group of musicians, some of whom are people that have long struggled with mental illness, and others are those who support them. It's about 50-50 for people who disclose mental health diagnoses to the group when they join. We have 3 orchestras, one in Boston, one in Manchester, and one here in Burlington, Vermont. The Burlington, Vermont one was the first. This is our flagship city. We also have 3 choruses, as well as some auxiliary groups. There's a flute choir and some other groups that have arisen organically over time. We have one real mission, which is to create a space where music and art can be made and community can be had free of the stigma surrounding mental illness. That's a tough thing to do at times. It takes a lot of intention. And we call that our stigma-free zone. I've got my pin here. There's some in the back. This is a model of intentional community that has worked for us for a long time and has guided our mission from the beginning. Ronald, Ronnie, as I'll call him, is a celebrated musician and conductor. He's all kinds of prizes, has been all over the world, and there was a time that came where his conducting and his career was affected by stigma surrounding his mental illness. He's a person who lives with bipolar disorder. The symptoms at different times have been very difficult for him. And he thought to himself, sitting with Caroline, his wife, who you'll hear more from and about later, I want a space where we can make this classical music, this thing that's often very strict, this thing that has a lot of barriers surrounding it, financial barriers, behavioral barriers, and I want it to be stigma-free. I want to be able to walk up to someone and say, you know, I'm struggling right now. The symptoms of bipolar disorder are hard, and for that person to then say, me too. You know, and that was how he came up with this idea. The group he started was like 12 or 14 people. Sometimes they met in a living room, right? And now we have maybe 250 musicians at a time when you count them all up together. The Burlington Orchestra is 49 strong right now, which in a town of 40,000 people is completely unheard of. I've tried to find other examples. I have not. And we meet every week for 2 hours on Tuesdays, and that's a really important space. 15 years in, it feels like a completely different group. Everything has since taken on its own life, and we'll talk a little bit about that, what that means right now. Here's just kind of the basics, right? We play 3 to 4 shows a year. In Burlington, that's November, March, and May. We're funded almost entirely by small private donations, especially now with federal funding changing, grants drying up and going away. It is really mostly the people who come to our shows who fund this effort, which is no small thing because it kind of costs a lot of money to get a room that fits 50 people every week, and then booking halls to play shows, right? Our musicians are volunteers. Our admin staff and our conductors are not, and that's how we've operated. All of our conductors are weirdly renowned. It hasn't always been this way, and it isn't necessarily expected of an amateur group like ours with a social mission. We just so happen to have only the best, and we're very, very grateful for it. If any of you are active VPR listeners, you'll hear Mike Colburn, our conductor of the Burlington group, at times talking about music and about his relationship to it, and about growing up in St. Albans, which is because he's from around here. We have absolutely every single kind of person in our orchestras. We have people who have play their instruments at a professional level and went to school for it. We have people who started 3 years ago for retirement and can sight read our level of music just fine, and so they practice a lot and they come to rehearsals. We have people who struggle with mental illness symptoms to the point that participation gets hard at times, and we work things out. We have people who are psychiatrists, including the director of psychiatry for UVM is a person who comes and plays with us every week, right? I note here our biggest age range. When I started, there was a 12-year-old and a 92-year-old in the group. A pretty good spread. I think right now that spread is maybe 16 and 85, something like that. But absolutely every kind of person, and we're an affirming group. You know, it's a safe space for LGBT individuals. It's a safe space for people from other countries to come and play music and be in a place where they can know that that's not going to be a problem. They keep doing stories on us. Some of these are fun. I'm not going to play any of the videos, but anyways, any of y'all watch CBS Sunday Morning? We did that. That was a fun experience. We've been on the evening news. We've been a bunch of different places. As is the reaction that most crowds have at this point. They say, this sounds like a really cool idea. That's an interesting thought. So how is it that it works? How is it that you actually execute on a thing like this? And that's what a lot of these stories are answering, is how do we get there? How do we bring that intention every week? This is about, I don't know, 38% into the speech so far, but I like to stop for questions, because usually at this time when I've just explained the basics, people have wonderings. There will be another time, of course, at the end where I do so, but does anybody need a question answered? I'll continue. But don't be shy about asking. You can interrupt me. That's fine.
Phoenix, you're going to talk about how you got involved?
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's in there. Why don't we start with that, and I'll go back. The lived experience. We keep close track of how our people are doing so that we can say, this thing really helps people. I've thrown up some quotes on the right and left here. How big is that screen? I'll read them. This comes from a person named Alana Bethany, who's been with our group for a long time. As a person living with schizophrenia, it isn't very often that I feel welcome in any group. No matter how I present, no matter how or if I play, these people are here for me every week. That can be a pretty powerful thing, right? Another from Miss Burke says, I know that whenever I enter our space, I'll be greeted with warm smiles. I know the people around me have experienced what I've experienced, and I can make genuine connections with them. This is everyone in our orchestra shares these feelings. I've saved the middle one because it's often quoted in things that we do, but it's actually myself. So let's talk about how I got into this group. I was 18 years old when I started playing cello with the Me2 Orchestra. I saw a flyer, I think, initially. And I was new to Vermont at the time and newly away from my family for the first time. And I was struggling with mental health problems. I was struggling with drinking. I was struggling with depression, something that a lot of college students get into. And I knew that what was going to be important for me was two things. I needed to play. I had not taken so much time away from my instrument in my life at that point. And I needed to find a strong community. UVM's great for that. There's a lot of strong communities. And I knew that I needed musicians. I needed to be back on the floor. I got to this group, and I obviously needed help. The way that I was presenting in the room it was clear to other people that I needed support. And they really bent over backwards immediately to offer it. After my very first rehearsal, one of the French horn players offered to drive me there and back every week. No small feat going from UVM down to the South End. Just immediately, no question, they were going to be there and make sure that I showed up. There were times where I had a lot of close conversations with Ronnie, just about where I was at. There are people who are in the orchestra, specifically the clarinet section, who still check up on me. 12 years later, when I have 3 children and a life that works, and I've worked out those problems over time, right? And that's how I got involved as a cellist, and I played the cello player who's in the first picture here. You can see him closest to the conductor. He was my stand partner when I started. He's still the principal cellist for the group now. His name is Alex. He's great. Thank you for being there. And I played with the group, and then of course COVID comes, right? And you can't keep meeting with orchestras. When that occurred, things were here and there for a while, tried some virtual, tried some this, tried that. When we came back, we knew we were going to come back strong. Things were going to get organized. Caroline's running the Boston group, right? The Manchester group is just sort of a thought in our heads. And they thought, well, you know, we're going to need someone to be the dude on the floor. It's not a full-time job. Really, it's like 4 to 8 hours a week of work. Except for 2 weeks a year, it's like 80 hours a week of work because there are performances to put on and these things and stuff. And you know, I raised my hand and said I have some nonprofit management experience. I have some experience in the mental health world, as well as I'm with the group. I kind of know, I've made the copies before, right? I've handled the folders. They hired me on, and that's been great. And you know, our head of operations, our point of operations right now is the preschool and childcare center that I own. I walked through one to get here. I felt very at home being around the little kids. So it's really this small town operation that we're doing. That is how I got involved. Over time, there's more duties, and we've expanded, and things are going to keep expanding. There are new cities, you know, raising their hand every day to say, is there going to be a Me2 Portland, Oregon? Is there going to be, you know, these other groups too? I expect to be involved, which is good. They made a documentary about us. You can still find it. It's Googleable. You can watch the movie. That was a big thing for us. We had this kind of long form way to tell our story and follow some of the key musicians who've been with us and who have really benefited from us. Being in the mental health realm isn't easy all of the time. It takes a lot of intention, it takes a lot of work, and sometimes there are problems that come up that are difficult to deal with. The first clip that I showed from the Algar, I didn't know it at that time, but I would end up performing that piece 2 years ago in memoriam when we lost one of our violin players to suicide. He was very open about this. He wanted people to know what he was dealing with, and for us to talk about it as we move forward about what that pain is like. As a group, obviously, moving forward, you know, there were people that were needed a lot of healing, and that needed a lot of talking about it, as it were. But that's why we're here. Those things are going to happen. These groups are gonna face this, and it's one of the things I'm most impressed with from these musicians is pulling through, taking a deep breath, and performing music like that is so meaningful, that lifts us up so completely. I'm going to show another brief video. We like to get into communities. We don't like to sit in our hall and be on a big tall chair. We really like to break down the barriers to classical music as much as we can. One way to do that is an event that we've run several times. This is one iteration of that, where we set up in a park, we play a song that all of us can play more or less from memory. In this case, it's Eine kleine Nachtmusik. And we let random passerbys take the baton and be our conductor. It's fun. Once again, I think we're going to deal with ads. Yep. Wow, I'm glad that they let it be short. Wow.
When you shop in the Shaw's app,
2 ads.
you can count on us to be ready for pickup on time.
Oh, skip. Thank you. This is 3 minutes. I'm going to let us watch all of it.
Staring at you for 3 minutes. It's very funny.
You guys are amazing.
So are you.
This is a lot more scary than I thought.
You're up all the power.
I love that video. We have a great time. We've done that at Art Hop as well here in Burlington, and it's always a blast. Speaking of that community element, it's what I think is the most important part of our mission is sharing music and sharing our stigma-free zones in as many places as we can. Yes, we play in cool halls. We love Ellie Long. We, down at St. Mike's. We've done the Flynn. That was cool. We had a good time. Way more cool than that are some of these places we've played. We've played in several correctional facilities. We've played in treatment facilities. We're going to do that again this year down at the old Woodside building. There's a facility there. We played at the airport. That was cool. Bakken Airport was a whole thing they were doing for a while. Subways. A lawn I liked that was local. I'm not sure if it was private. I don't know. We played. City Hall all the time. We play at Burlington City Hall constantly. The Contours is a great place to bring people in. My house at one point. Facilities for the aging, churches, every single faith-based building in South Burlington has hosted us at one time or another. And I'm going to tell two stories about two of these places that I've highlighted. One is which is a correctional facility in St. Albans. It's up there in Franklin County. This is when I was still playing with the group. We went up there playing for a men's prison, playing for inmates and incarcerated individuals and those who work with them. And that was a really powerful performance, not because of the nature of the performance, we'd done it many times, we wanted to bring music to this group, but because during the question section, and we always have a Q&A while we play, they let us ask them some questions. And one of the questions that I asked to this group of maybe 100 incarcerated individuals was, did any of you have the opportunity to play an instrument or play music in school when you were young? And no hands. So you can extrapolate from that what there is, but I've since asked it more times, and the question continues to be so. That was a powerful performance for me. I learned a lot that day. You can see in the picture, I think we're in an elementary school gym. We like that. Last year, we booked the Winooski O'Brien Center, if y'all know where that is. Difficult booking over there, figure out who the property managers are, but I toured it 6 months in advance and it looked like the right kind of space and it looked all good. The day that we showed up, we found out it was all under construction. There was a full renovation being done. Plastic up, plaster falling down. Didn't stop us, we set up those chairs. And what we didn't know is that our advertising crew, that's me, had done a pretty good job for this show, because we expected at the Winooski show maybe 80 or 100 people, a smaller event, right? No, 250 people showed up, fire marshals, real mad. But we did it and we're trying to be there for the community. People were sitting amongst the orchestra, sharing chairs with musicians. Kids were just finding place on shoulders, I was holding a baby at one point, I'm not even sure whose baby. But that's the kind of events that are really special to me and really annoying to our conductor, where we can be down with people like, explaining specifically what it is that we're doing. And we have a great time with that. You might see us any combination of places. We ask people for money all the time. We're a nonprofit. Consider this when you're thinking about other nonprofit giving or people that you're speaking to during the rest of this month and the rest of next year. Obviously, I mentioned cuts, grants, things like that. The Weaver Challenge is really cool. One of our most long-lasting and significant patrons for the past, we're on year 3 or 4 of a 5-year challenge, matches $50,000 of small donations every year. That really helps us out with what we do. So any new or increased donation is matched to $50,000 each year. We're close to meeting it this year. We're probably going to by the end of the year. It's very good. It's very good. An interesting point about where we play and how we play and what we're playing is that we're going to be playing in town, at least in the next semester or so. We've just had a show. We played at Ellie Long, 4 or 5 weeks ago. You guys remember that day early in November where there was a weird snowstorm nobody expected and it made a problem? That was the day. Still 200 people showed up to really be a part. We still filled the audience and people were trying to be part of it. People were digging each other out of the snow afterwards, proving our community element and our importance to those groups. We're going to be playing 2 shows coming up. The one that's in Burlington, I told you wrong earlier, Wayne, I'm sorry. The one that's in Burlington is at Ellie Long. It's in Colchester. In May, we're going to have a show. And then in March on the 17th, on St. Patrick's Day, we're doing an all-Irish themed, only Irish composers show. I'll give more information about that to everyone. It'll be on our website, but I'll send it out for the bulletin boards and things as well, so people can come see us, because that's really where the bread and butter is. These musicians, you've heard them twice today so far, but it's hard to articulate how special it is that they are as good as they are, because they're an amateur orchestra with a mission of providing a space where people can build community under the banner of the arts outside of the stigma of mental illness. And yet they also rock, which they don't have to. It would be fine if they didn't. We'd keep doing this. But the group that we've had for the past 15 years is a bunch of really excellent musicians who play just wonderfully. And they work really hard and they practice hard and they show up. And that's very special and you don't always get it. I've been in community orchestras for which that wasn't the case, right? I just even look, I catch a glimpse of musicians here and every single one of them I'm impressed with. I think that's really good. I'll leave it at that. Open questions, question time. I do mention here we are always accepting musicians. If you know people who play even a little bit, come check it out. Come hang out during a rehearsal, honestly. We don't mind people listening and being part of the community. We do have non-musician members who we give a triangle or something to hang out with us. And volunteers are always helpful. How many chairs do I set up a week? My back's only going to last so long. As well as people donate spaces to us. People give us airtime. I mean, CCTV's here today. They've been with us for how many years? There's so many recordings of me saying these things all over town, right? But in general, yes. Let's take questions.
Well, first of all, before questions, thank you so much for the really wonderful presentation. Let me ask a first question.
Please.
How scary is it to make the first contact with the orchestra for someone who's potentially interested?
Yeah, we try to reduce the barrier to joining as much as possible. You can just walk in, and people do. People just show up at the rehearsal at 7 o'clock. They say, this is my instrument. Where do I sit? May I have music, please? And I have a stack ready for that. And I say, thank you so much. We're glad that you're here. You can always shoot me an email, and people do. And to which that email reply will say, yes, we want you very much, regardless of what is going on. Please come. Please be with our group. That happens all the time. Happened today.
Questions? We're going to be using the mic.
Oh, great.
Any contact or relationship with like the Howard Center?
Oh, yes. Yeah, not only do several of our musicians work for the Howard Center, and also I was affiliated at the time, but they have co-sponsored events before, as well as their affiliate groups.
I was wondering about like auditions, or do you have to turn people away, or do they have to have a certain level of competency in what they're playing?
No auditions, no fees, no mental health stigma.
I didn't hear that.
We have no auditions, then there are no fees as well. And there are times where people come and they are uncomfortable with the music, right? We play at a late high school, early college level for the most part. And some people do play at an 8th grade level and they sit every week and they play with us. That's great. They should. We have plenty of musicians to fill in from there. Some people are uncomfortable with that and they don't continue. Every once in a while we'll get a bottleneck of musicians and we're like, we got 10 trombones. Can you come back next time? Or can we form an auxiliary group, which is exactly what happened in Boston 15 flutists wanted to be part of it, and that really would affect the music, right? So we made a flute choir, and they're awesome. We could do a clarinet choir in Burlington if we, yeah, we could do that as well. But so we don't typically turn people away, and we're never going to audition anyone. They can tell us where they're at. We'll believe them. Yes.
Do the musicians all provide their own instruments? Like, what do you do for things like double basses and percussionists?
Yeah, musicians do provide their own instruments outside of those two specific situations. Well, double bassists have their own basses for the most part, but they store them with us. And then we, over time, have accrued enough percussion instruments, and our normal percussion players are our normal percussion players, so we provide percussion. If someone had the skills to play in the group and the barrier was the instrument, we would never let that be a barrier. We would find one. Yes, sir.
Thanks. You talked about the rehearsals being 2 hours in length, and you also talked about people helping each other and talking to each other. What percentage is rehearsal? What percentage is working together as people?
Yeah, so they rehearse pretty hard during those 2 hours. There's like a 15-minute break in the middle. If there are people who are needing support and are obviously not going to play, people will take asides. They'll go to different rooms, have conversations with the trusted confidants. I spend a significant amount of my time at rehearsal doing that, helping people regulate or talking through things or figuring out what needs are. But they do play the whole time. We're also, the doors open 45 minutes early, the doors close a little late, and we have community events where we don't bring our instruments. For example, what's today? Thursday? 2 days ago, at my center, the school that I run, I hosted our holiday party where about 40 people showed up and chatted and worked together and got whatever needs they needed met, and it was good.
I have 2 questions.
Please.
Where are your rehearsals? And then when you're performing, do you charge money to the audience as a way of fundraising?
Sure, I'll answer the second one first. We do not ever charge for any performances. All performances are always free and donation-based. And where do we rehearse? We rehearse right now at 899 Dorset Street, the Faith United Methodist Church in South Burlington, Vermont, down across from Miller Park. For a very long time, we were, for 8 or 9 years, we were at the Robert Miller Civic Center in the North End, but you guys probably heard budget cuts. They're not going to have that for very much longer, so we moved.
I have one more question.
Please.
Do any of these musicians seek out more professional people for tutoring, helping them play?
Yes. At times, well, I would say maybe a third of our musicians are involved in lessons every week. There's maybe 4 or 5 pairings of musicians in the group who help other musicians in the group. I was part of one of those groups when I first started. I was paired with a cellist to help me with the material. And if anyone ever needed that or wanted it and we didn't have it, we would find it for them. Including with our conductor, who meets for people with sectionals when he can. Oftentimes I find with a group like this that's been going on so long, there are sectionals I don't even know about. There's groups meeting about the music and about the performances that I'm not even aware of at times.
Your question also, let me pose to you. You said at the start that you have a combination of people with mental illness and supportive people who support them. Yes. Can you just say a little bit more about how that works out?
When people join, I tend to ask them some questions once they've been in the group for a while about their interest in the group. And about half of people choose to disclose a specific diagnosis. The reason to do that is because you can get specific support, right? So someone might say, as they have said before, I struggle with visual and auditory hallucinations. Most of the time I have it together. Sometimes I startle or speak aloud when it's not socially appropriate or things like that. So I'm telling you that so that you know what's going to happen. And then we all say, wonderful, thank you, we're pretty used to that. So those sorts of things. But We do have a lot of mental health professionals that are also in the group. You can see where the interest and the overlap may be for that. We have more than one psychiatrist, several therapists that are also part of the group at any given time too. Or people who say, you know, I might not specifically struggle with this, but my husband does or my dad does. And I've lived with this my whole life, and therefore being part of these communities is helpful to me as well.
Any other questions for Phoenix? Well, please take one of the Me2 brochures and the Lunch and Learn brochure if you haven't already. And thank you again for taking the time to join us.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to mill around and stay about as well if anyone wants to chat.